Know when you're ready to start. But I'm going to turn over the chairmanship of the meeting to Christine Vitale. I'm home with COVID after 3.5 years of not, getting COVID. I finally got it, and so I think she'd do a better job running the meeting today. Thank you, Christine. Take it away.
Well, simply, you can't see who's in the room from your vantage point, right? Can you see everybody who's here?
No.
Well, it's a full room. All right, so meeting called to order. I am Selectman Vitale, joined by our first selectman. Let me say the special meeting of the Fairfield Board of Selectmen is called to order. Ask you to all please rise for the pledge. Mrs. Ewing, will you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We're going to share resignations. This is for information only. From the Board of Library Trustees, Jill W. Brown. Historic District Commission, Christopher Shea. He was elected to the RTM, so he is stepping down from the Historic District Commission. We thank both of these individuals for their service to the town. We look forward to hearing what comes next for both of them. I don't know if you have anything to add on that to this.
I just want to thank both of them for their service. I haven't met Christopher Shea yet, but I do know Jill Brown, and I know how passionate she has been in supporting the library.
And Ms. Brown, we're looking forward to her moving forward. She is a librarian herself, and we wish her luck in her future ventures in that field and thank her for her service. We're moving on to item number 4, reappointments. To hear, consider, and act upon the following reappointments. Assessor, Ross D. Murray, term 11/23 through November 2027. Internal Auditor, Conchetta M. Saxel, term November 2023 to November 2027. Tax Collector, David Zwickski, sorry about that. Term 2023 to 2024. And She Warden Jeffrey Minder, term 11/23 to 11/24. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Gerber, I'll second that. This is before us. Mr. Gerber?
May I ask if Phil Pierce could address the body about why we are doing this this year?
And we are joined by our town attorney.
Phil Pierce, town attorney. So there's been kind of an inconsistent practice about these positions being appointed or reappointed and being announced in meetings. So sometimes they've been on the agenda, sometimes they're on the agenda without a term, which creates ambiguity. Sometimes they're not on the agenda at all. The charter for 3 of the 4 positions doesn't state a term, doesn't say that it's a lifetime appointment, doesn't say that it's 4 years. So the thought process here is to be transparent about these people being reappointed to their jobs, and that the term being consistent with the first selectman's term, which I believe was what the prior administration had intended with their appointments. So it's consistent with that, but it spells it out and it's transparent. That's why it's on the agenda this way. So I'm happy to answer questions if people have questions, or the board has questions.
I have a question, Mr. Pierce, Attorney Pierce. we have talked about reopening the charter at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future. And would this be something that we would adjust and clarify in a revised charter, in your opinion?
Certainly, the charter right now just has a blank there, which is, I think, the most ambiguous thing you could have in the charter. So this is one of many things that we need to address in charter revision.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on this item?
I was wondering if Mr. Murray, Ms. Saxel, and Mr. Kluski and Mr. Minder are in the room, it would be maybe helpful for the public to hear from them and a little bit about what they do, as we introduce them to the public if people don't ordinarily in the normal course of business get to hear from them.
I think that is a wonderful idea. Who would like to come to the podium first? Forward, and please just introduce yourself and do, as the first selectman asked, just tell a little bit about the service that you provide to our town.
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is David Kluski. I am the tax collector. I've been here for about 6.5 years now, and so it's basically my duty to collect approximately $320 million in taxes currently, as efficiently and effectively as possible, maintaining a approximate 99% collection rate, while it's a very customer service intensive office. Collecting taxes, it is a very sensitive subject for many residents. So, I take pride in the fact that my office is very customer service oriented. But I just wanted to congratulate Bill on his election, and I look forward to working with you for the next 4 years. And I just wanted to say I also look forward to serving the residents of Fairfield for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I've always enjoyed speaking with you at RTM meetings in the past.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Jeff Minder, Town Tree Warden. Been with the town for the past 11 years. This hopefully will be my 9th appointment as Tree Warden. My duties are basically care and control of all the trees within the public right-of-way and municipal properties. Not only care and control, pruning, removing, and tree planting, working closely with our forestry committee and our utility companies.
Any questions, Mr. Gerber?
I wasn't sure if Mr. Minder knew that he was highlighted in our "Did you know" in our newsletter.
I saw that. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Is there any information you can share with our residents about if they have a problem with trees, what they should do if they want to, have the town plant a new tree on their property, any procedures that they should follow?
We have our resident alert system that you can alert me through the website. That's the revised website where the residents can come in and put their requests, and that goes directly to me. They also can contact me through my email, which is jminder@fairfieldct.org. Tree planting requests can go through myself or through that the resident request system that will be directed to our forestry committee, and they will come out and meet with you. We have several members of the committee that will come out and explain the entire process of tree planting.
I just want to share the forestry committee submitted a letter of recommendation and thank you for your service, and encouraged us to reappoint you again. So I just wanted to put that on the public record, and it's also in our backup. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Connie Saxel, and I'm the internal auditor for the town of Fairfield. I've had the pleasure of serving the town of Fairfield for over 32 years, since 1991. And as you can imagine, I've conducted hundreds of internal audits of all town departments over the many, many years. These audits include examinations of departmental internal controls to ensure that the proper procedures are in place to safeguard town assets such as revenue collections. I examine departmental expenditures to ensure that they are in compliance with town charter guidelines governing bidding and procurement requirements. I examine departmental operations for efficiency and effectiveness. I examine departmental compliance with town-adopted policies and procedures. These audits culminate in written reports to management, which include findings and recommendations for areas of improvement. These are for management's review and consideration. I believe that internal audit serves a vital and important role in town government, and that it assists in reducing risk of possible losses and assists management in making overall departmental improvements. I enjoy working for the town of Fairfield, and I look forward to working for the town to the best of my ability for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gerber? Any questions?
Yes, well, this is a topic very near and dear to my heart, as is Ms. Saxel. What she, I started my career as an auditor. I've read most of your audit reports in recent years. I think they're well done. And this is an area of that we're going to emphasize over the coming years to ensure some of the new policies and procedures that we put in place are being followed. And I just want to appreciate also the fact that because you were president of your union, that you asked for a review by the Ethics Commission on that, and they recommended that you resign, or that it wasn't appropriate for you to hold both titles, and that as soon as you found out about that you stepped down as president of your union. And really, really appreciate that. So there's no longer a conflict in appearance or in fact, and really, and the offer that I made to you, that if you ever need me to come along to sort of emphasize the importance of your work in any department, I'd be more than happy to.
I love it. Thank you, Selectman Gerber. I might take you up on that. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ross Murray. I am the assessor for the town of Fairfield, and I've been so for about the past 6 years. The department's responsibilities are to develop the grand list, which is the taxable property in the town. It includes the real estate, motor vehicles, and business personal property. We also administer the benefit programs for the senior disabled tax relief, the renters program, which is comparable to the senior program, but for non-homeowners, and also the veterans exemption and a few other smaller exemptions.
Any questions, Mr. Gerber?
Well, yeah, I mean, Mr. Murray, if you would you and I sat down recently about the fact that you're actually gearing up for the next assessment. I'm not sure if that's something you want to talk about now, but you would like to have more time to do that, so it's not done all in 1 year going forward, right?
Yeah, I can mention that. I have started working on the request for proposal for the 2025 reval. The plan right now is, and the document's not complete yet, and we haven't issued it, but would be to start the process a bit earlier than we have in the past. This is what is referred to as a full reval, which does involve verification of all of our data of all the houses in town. So that does take quite a bit more time. So the hope is to extend that out a little longer and slow the process down so it's not all jammed up in 1 year.
Thank you.
Thank you. As we've heard, these 4 individuals have been with our town for many years. They have been employed, so it's some of a different dynamic in being long-term employees and also going through the appointment process. So I am bringing it to the public for comment, but being that these are personnel issues, I just to appreciate that I might have to limit if we get too far down into individual specific. There's a fine line between being open in terms of discussing personnel and allowing transparency for the public. So if anybody would like to give comment on these appointments, time, please come to the.
Pass on to the others who couldn't make it.
Yes, and for the record, Ms. Kupchak, since we're good, she announced at the last meeting that she is traveling today, and that's why she was not able to join us. This was a special meeting, so it was not on our schedule.
My name's Judy Ewing. I live at 98 Sasko Hill Terrace. I know quite a few people in this room, but I don't know the people that are being discussed very well. Some not at all. So I'm not going to talk about people, the employees, so much as the process. As someone who's been involved in town government since 1971, I was surprised to find this reappointment item for 3 of the 4 persons on the board agenda for approval. In fact, I checked back over the Board of Selectmen agendas and could not find these reappointments mentioned for the past 20 years. I have provided some attachment with my research on that. Therefore, I urge you to take no action on this item for several reasons. I'm not sure by what authority this item is even on the agenda. The 3 reappointments in the charter, section 1, appear to need initial approval from this board. There's no term limit listed for the internal auditor, assessor, or tax collector. Indefinite, and no requirement for periodic reappointment. And yet terms are indicated for employees, 4 to 5 terms, year terms, and the tree ward for 1. Another section of the charter, 3.6A and B, describes the procedures for removal from office for cause. It appears that this request for reappointment conflicts with that section because if the motion fails to support any of these people, they lose their jobs without cause. There are, in fact, 3 appointments that can be dismissed without cause: the town treasurer, the assistant town attorneys, and director of community and economic development, all listed in Part A. Those in Part A are appointments by the first selectman. It appears to me that if this is not clearly stated in the charter and discussed and clarified on employment, that these positions are considered to be 4-year terms, it is inappropriate to discuss these employees in public. I am wondering if these reappointments were recommended to the first selectman by the Human Resources Director. Section 9(13) states that HR duties are determined by the first selectman as to manage and supervise policies and programs relating to all town personnel practices. So it seemed to me that because this action is not in the charter as a requirement, it might be more of a matter for at this point, the relations director, the resources director, and for the first selectman. And let me remind you, during the Charter Revision Commission meetings all last year, these issues were not even discussed, except with one exception, and that is to propose a 2-year term for the tree warden to comply with state statutes. Therefore, unless and until the wisdom of including these 3 appointments on a Board of Selectmen agenda is thoroughly discussed with personnel people and so forth, I urge the Board of Select persons to take no action on this matter at this time. If HR has changed its hiring policies, it should be brought to the attention of the next Charter Revision Commission.
Thank you, Ms. Yang. Mr. Gerber, do you have any other questions or discussion before we take this for a vote?
Yeah, I mean, I think our town attorney has at least, I believe he's addressed some of these issues that were raised, and I do believe that we do need to reopen the charter and address this as part of the many things that should be addressed in a charter revision. But it is unclear, and the way the charter is written currently really doesn't make sense. So I think the belief is that either they should not have been listed there, or there should have been a definite term, but having them listed with no term makes no sense.
I would agree with that. Thank the town attorney for being here and giving his opinion on this. And I do appreciate that although things have been done a certain way for decades, that doesn't necessarily mean they should not be revisited. So this might be just the first of many things that we just look and try to find a way of being more transparent and more efficient. But I appreciate your giving comment today, and we will look to this as we consider reopening the charter. Seeing no other public comment, Ms. Hoag.
You already submitted the letter that you mentioned, and as chair of the Forestry Committee for Fairfield, I just wanted to publicly, and all these wonderful people here on the Forestry Committee next to Jeff, I just wanted to say publicly how happy and special, how happy we are that Jeff is here with us, and so special, because when I'm in town meetings with other towns, I'm constantly so impressed with the great work that we did here in Fairfield, what Jeff is leading. So we're really lucky to have him, and we're hoping to keep him for a long time.
I second that.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. Back to the board for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 2-0. First Selectmen reappointment. This is for information purposes only. Employees Retirement Board. This item will require RTM approval. Carolyn L. Trabucco, Democrat, 111 Lookout Drive South. She's being reappointed for a term November 2023 through November 2028. Mr. Gerber, this was your hint.
Yes. Yeah, I would like to say a few words. Carolyn Trabucco has helped transition the pension board into what appears to me to be a much more stable and predictable methodology of operating that board. I feel much more comfortable now than I have before. I mean, some of these changes were started prior to her joining, but she has certainly carried this to the point where we've had an outside investment advisor and removed ourselves from some of the the ability for individuals to insert themselves in investment decisions, which was probably at times in the past have gotten us into trouble. I do believe that we are now, with the acquisition of our outside investment advisor by another company, and that company's running off or not taking the public plans. Carolyn Trabucco is really necessary. She's going to play a big role in finding an alternative outside investment advisor. And I'm just so appreciative of the fact that she is willing to do this for another term, because she makes this a priority, even though she's got a lot going on.
I second everything that you said, and I've known Mr. Trabucco since our children started kindergarten together. I won't say how many years ago that was. We served as PTA budget reps at Dwight, served through PTAs at Roger Ludlow Middle School. When I was the PTA president, I called on Carolyn to just stay involved all the way through as our budget rep, through the middle school, through the high school. I am thrilled that she has agreed to be reappointed to lead this very important board. So it's nice seeing you, Mr. Trabucco. You're on a split screen right now, so you're kind of in two parts for the audience here. But if you'd like to give any comment, I invite you to do so.
No, thank you for the opportunity. We have our work cut out for us. Thank you for the kind words, for Selectman Gerber, and Selectwoman Vitale. I think we're up for the challenge, with the news that Vanguard is being sold to, the OCIO business is being sold to Mercer. We will be out there looking for an alternative OCIO manager. We've already revved up the engines, if you will, appointed a subcommittee, and are off to the races. And I think the past 4 years, 5 years or so of my term, has been marked by the increasing professionalization of this board. We've refreshed our relationships. We've updated all of our vendor relationships. We've brought all of our plan documents up to snuff. We're following best practices, and we'll continue to do so. And so I'm delighted to be here, and you know, we'll keep carrying the torch. It's an honor and a privilege to be acting as a steward and fiduciary for the town's pensions and OPEB funds.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Okay, we're moving on. Item 6, purchasing authority. To hear and consider and act upon authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract with Luke's Consulting Engineering to provide all engineering services necessary to perform construction, administration, and inspection services for Phase 1 Fairfield Metro East Trunk Line Sanitary Sewer and Crossing as outlined in their proposal dated July 31st, 2023 from the MetroCog RFQ for on-call engineering services and an amount not to exceed $490,230. Funding for this contract is available on account 2260-5070-57054-80077 East Trunk Land Crossing. Can I have a motion before us?
So moved.
Gerber, I will second that. This is before us. We
have engineering and purchasing.
We have engineering and purchasing here to talk us through this. Just ask you to please just state your name for the record.
Yeah, sure, I'll start. I'm Adam Tulin, Purchasing Director. Just briefly, from a purchasing contract perspective, this checks off all the boxes. We utilized the short list, or we utilized the on-call list available to the town as a member of the MetroCog group, and shortlisted some firms for submitting proposals. Ultimately selected Luke's. The proposed contract have been submitted to the town attorney, who's reviewed and made some suggested edits, which should be included in your backup. Now, to talk a little bit about the actual project.
Sure. These again, you're just approving the contracts. All the three that are before you have been approved by the town boards and have gone through the process. 1 and 2 involve grants. Third phase, or the Attorney Creek one, does not. Went through all the boards and the proposals came in within our budget allotted for that construction phase, inspection.
Any questions?
Well, just for the public, Bill, could you, Mr. Hurley, could you just run the public through what these projects will accomplish?
Okay, I'll start and then I'll have Mega finish up as she's been doing most of the details. This first one is the wetland crossing. When the Metro Center was developed, they had reconstructed the sanitary sewer line up to the very last manhole on the whole Metro Center property there. And this one now takes it from that manhole across the wetlands to the manhole that's in the street at Kenwood Avenue. And so that's what we call phase 1. It's the wetlands project that went out to bid. It was too high. So we are combining what we call phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 2 continues from that Kenwood manhole and eventually zigzags through a couple of streets, Dalewood, Ash Street, Grassmere, and there's a little section that runs along the Post Road right of way, and that would be phase 2. So that one there, we got the approval. We have a $3 million grant for that particular project. For this wetland crossings one, it was $750,000. It's replacement or upsizing the 33-inch sanitary sewer line that's there now and making it 36 inches, which would also help with the development of that Metro Center property. Megan, do you have anything else to add?
That is phase one, just to clear 33 inches replacement with 36 inches. Phase two has 8 inches lateral, which will be replaced with 36 inches lateral. There are 33 inches and this will be replaced with 36 inches, and 8 inches sewer laterals will be abandoned, and 36 inches will take the flow from Kennard Street to all the way down to Post Road. It's 2,500 linear feet of the lateral of the new sewer pipe that will be installed in phase two.
And even though the resolutions are, or the
Yeah.
approval of the contracts are phase one to they're separate, we'll be bidding the project through obviously the purchasing agent and director as one, because at the pre-construction meeting, a couple of the contractors had mentioned that they could give us more affordable prices if we combine the two. And in a matter of fact, from the Luke's contract, we have they have 2 professional engineers that would be involved. They have a NICET chief inspector, and they have 2 other inspectors, one with 40 years experience, one with 15 years experience. So they're definitely qualified. They do a lot of the work for the Aquarian Water Company as well. And I just want to quote here that the construction, administration, and inspection services would be provided as requested, authorized by the town engineer, billed at approved hourly rates for only the hours worked. If other sewer projects run concurrently, there'll be savings in inspection costs by the staff covering more than one operation when the construction workload allows. So that was another reason why this group Luke's was selected.
And they will
Right.
just be providing oversight of the project and the contractors for this project once we go out to bid.
That would be correct.
That's the role that they'll be playing. Mr. Gerber, any questions?
I just want to double check. Am I remembering correctly? Did you initially put phase one out to bid and did not get sufficient bids on that, or am I misremembering?
You know, that I had mentioned that before. Phase had gone out to bid. Only one firm was selected, submitted. Then we even did it again a second time. And basically the same firm, and now there was another firm, but we felt those prices were too high. And so on this one, we're combining phase 1 and 2 to make it a much larger project, where we've been told by a couple of quote construction experts that by combining them should result in a lower bid.
And could you just remind me, what will it take for some of the proposed developments at the Metro Center to actually get hooked up and go online? Would both phase 1 and phase 2 have to be completed?
Have to be completed. I think the developer has already installed the new lines.
We can't, yeah.
Well, actually, yes and no, yeah. I think they're looking right now to secure projects and building permit approvals and the sewer department approvals. If they get the approval and they know the project's going through, once there's probably a bid opening, they can proceed with that. And then they obviously won't be able to get COs until everything is built.
Both phase 1 and phase 2?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
They'll be able to concurrently, the projects will be able to, you know what I mean? They could start building foundations while we're doing the sewer lines.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
When do you foresee the work beginning? I know in the contract, there was this, set days, 400, whatever the number was.
So end of February, we will get all the bidding packages together ready by the consultants. They're doing the boring work, the soil boring work, which started today. So because the foundation design is pending for phase 2, that's why we are waiting. It has been delayed. Phase 2 has been delayed because the foundation design was not done by the previous consultants. The new consultants, they have to design the foundation for that. They require soil borings to know the refusal, where the hard rock is underground, so they can design it accordingly, and also to know the geotechnical analysis, to know the soils, and what kind of soils we have, and it has to go all the lab testings and all the lab results that we will be getting. Once we get that, they will design the foundation, and that is anticipated to be completed by end of February. So first week of March, well, we are hoping to put it out for bidding. Okay.
And just for clarification, in a little bit more layman's terms, foundation basically means supportive excavation, not like a building foundation. Just to, as I said, these lines are anywhere from 10 to 24 feet.
It's 15 feet they have proposed, but we are going 30 feet down for geotechnical analysis. So it's 30 feet down. We are looking to design the foundation.
So once we get those results, the design will then wrap up, and as Omega said, February, we put the project out to bid. We're at the end of February, and then once we open the bids, we hope to go forward, because again, there is some of these projects that have cracked deadlines.
Okay, and I will trust you to speak with the first selectman's office just in terms of timing for future contracts, so we stay on schedule. I don't want to go too off, and I know this project has been approved, but I appreciate you just giving a little bit of context. Mr. Gerber, any other questions before we bring it to a vote?
Just one question, just really more for the public's sake. Bill, Mr. Hurley, can you just remind us whether or not you looked at alternatives are there alternatives like lining of the existing pipes, or is this really the only alternative that we have?
Yeah, we've had at least 3 meetings with the WPCA on this. We had third parties look at potential alternatives, and unfortunately, none of them really panned out. So many laterals and the zigzag directional drill or trenchless technology wouldn't work on some of those smaller sections or shorter sections. But we had looked at that, just to let you know.
Thank you.
Sure.
Would any members of the public like to give comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 2-0.
Thank you, and thanks to the town attorney and Madam. Thank you.
Moving on, item 7, purchasing authority. To hear and consider and act upon authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract with Luke's Consulting Engineers to provide all engineering services necessary to perform construction, administration, and inspection services for Phase 2, East Trunk Interceptor Sewer, as outlined in their proposal dated November 8th, 2023, from the MetroCog RFQ for on-call engineering services in an amount not to exceed $421,900. Funding for this contract is available in account 26413010575150 East Trunk Replacement. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second that? Anything new to add? That's just kind of a continuation.
Went over this, it's the same process was utilized. I kind of already talked about it all. So if there's any further questions, let us know.
Any additional questions?
No.
Any members of the public like to give comment? Seeing none, back to the board for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 2-0. Moving on, purchasing authority to hear and consider and act upon authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract with Luke's Consulting Engineers to provide all engineering services necessary to perform construction, administration, and inspection services for Phase 3, Turney Creek Culverts and Tide Gates, as outlined in their proposal dated November 8th, 2023, from MetroCog RFQ for on-call engineering services in an amount not to exceed $513,385. Funding for this contract is available in accounts 2630-5070, 57050- sewer siphon, and 2630-5070-5716 tie gates. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second that? Anything new happened in the last 2 minutes?
No, this is different.
If there's any questions about phase 3, but everything else is the same for this one.
Yeah, the only difference is the other ones were strictly sanitary sewers. This one combines self-regulating tie gates, flap tie gates, sanitary sewer siphons, and the replacement of the Riverside Bridge with culverts. So it's like a three-in-one type of project. As I said, just like the other ones, this one had gone through the boards. We actually delayed the project for a couple of years, trying to get grants, but unfortunately, for this type of project, the Riverside, the local bridge, it's a very competitive, and for that particular program, they were only looking at projects that were graded 4 or actually 3 and less, I believe, the ones that got approved, which means severe. This is in the fair to poor category, so this one didn't qualify for that. The Clean Water Act one, it involves a siphon, but it was I don't want to give out the price, but it was below most of the thresholds for that particular grant. And then the tie gate ones, our conservation director tried to apply, and unfortunately, it didn't qualify for particular ones because we are unable to, quote, solve, I'll just use the 100-year flood in that elevation. The roadway is a little lower, and so we would have to significantly raise that roadway, I think even 3 feet higher than what it is, and that would make the project even much more larger. And for the little amount of grant money that we could have got for that, it just didn't pay off.
Mr. Gerber, any questions?
Yeah, I just want to, just as a reminder, so this tide gate is not in poor condition. What condition is this tide gate in?
Actually, Bill, the tie gates themselves are in poor condition. The self-contained tie gates, the one with the orange balls, one of them, they had to take the balls off, and it's just basically a flap gate. The other one, they have constant maintenance issues, and it's not functioning the way it should be. It's probably functioning, I'll say, just a rough term of 33% of what it's supposed to be. So both of the tie gates are definitely need to be replaced. And as far as the culvert, again, not part of the local bridge program, but when they did the tie gates and the pipes after the bridge was done 30 years later, the pipes actually do it like a Z or a little zigzag. And sure enough, whenever you fuse corrugated metal pipe, that ends up being the weakest point of the pipe. And unfortunately, we've had DPW just had to fill in a couple of sinkholes in the area. So that's why this project has to go forward now. We did try to delay it in hopes of grants, but now is we have to do it. We don't have a choice.
Okay, thank you.
And to again alliterate that there's been no new grants that we could apply for. If at the last minute something comes up, we'll try, and usually whatever you've done will not be eligible. But since the project's 13 to 16 months in duration, if there's something that would happen to fall in our lap the next month or two, we'll go for it.
Great, thank you.
Any members of the public like to comment on this? Seeing none, back to the board for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 2-0. Thank you. On to number 9, Superintendent of Schools. To hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as requested by the Superintendent of Schools. Resolved, the Town of Fairfield authorizes the Board of Education of the Town of Fairfield to apply to the Commissioner of Administrative Services to accept or reject a grant for the Riverfield Elementary School Library Media Center RTU Rooftop Air Conditioning Unit Replacement Project at Riverfield Elementary School. And further resolve that the Riverfield Elementary School Library Media Center RTU Replacement Building Committee is hereby established as the building committee with regard to the Riverfield Elementary School Library Media Center RTU replacement project at Riverfield Elementary School, and further resolved, the town of Fairfield hereby authorizes at least the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the Riverfield Elementary School Library Media Center replacement project at Riverfield Elementary School. Can I have a motion to put this before us?
So moved.
Mr. Gerber, I'll second that. I don't see Mr. Testani, but I see Mr. Morabito who will speak to this.
Hello, Sam Morabito, Director of Construction for Fairfield Public Schools. The three motions or three resolutions are a requirement for filing for an HVAC IAQ grant, which is in its round 2 funding. The work that is covered by those resolutions is already complete. So it's a retroactive filing. It's required. It's one of the required documents. So we ask that you pass it so we can apply for a grant to lower the cost of work that's already done.
Mr. Gerber, do you have any questions?
No, I'm thrilled that you applied for it. Thank you, Sam.
The building committee, can it just be?
Well, assuming that we get the grant, this board of selectmen can assign it to another building committee, which it would be assumed that it would be the HVAC IAQ building committee. But
I was.
And it's just a matter of passing a motion that the bills that were paid were.
Thank you, Mr. Morabito. Would any members of the public like to comment on this? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 2-0. Okay, moving on to item 10, HVAC Indoor Air Quality Building Committee. Dear, consider and act upon a resolution amending and restating a resolution entitled, a resolution appropriating $220,701,443 for the costs associated with Phase 1 of the air conditioning upgrade project at various schools, authorizing grants to reimburse $1,116,320 of such appropriation and authorize the issuance of bonds to finance the remaining portion of such appropriation, to increase the appropriation by $16,402,557 to $39,104,000, and the bond authorization from $21,585,123 to $37,987,680. 20-year bond. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
I will second that. And we are joined today by members of the building committee. Mr. Becker, will you be speaking to this?
Yeah, myself and the books of my consultant, central office.
I will let you take the lead on just putting this before and.
Thank you. So we, to some extent, this item's been heard a couple of different times in a couple of different ways. So I'm going to generally skip a formal presentation as if yet it's been approved. There's some information that was provided in the packets that outlines in detail and also in a summary form amount per location. It's 3 locations. We've been charged with a number of different projects. This is specifically HVAC portion, and really as it relates to the indoor air quality charge. So after going to detailed engineering and design phase, there was numerous areas that were added in buildings to make sure that the buildings were brought up to 100% indoor air quality and HVAC, so that mini split units, some areas that weren't covered in the previous analysis, all of that was done. And also to ensure that the buildings ran as efficiently and that all of the systems connect the right way. So it's a pretty big undertaking. And this project was not, for all the right reasons to some extent, but it was not handled the way that most of the projects are handled now. A much more preliminary analysis was utilized to get grant dollars. And because of that, the larger due diligence that is done usually with seed money and coming forth with a full-blown project is really happening after the initial assessment. And with that, that's where we're now seeing the better information, but therefore we're seeing rising costs and with that a significant addition to square footage, some areas that, again, as I said before, that weren't necessarily originally going to be covered that should be, because if you're going to bring indoor air quality, I mean, a lot of people want to focus on AC as one of the items, but this is really an indoor air quality project with an AC benefit to it as well. And so that's a large undertaking as well. All the equipment is more expensive than when the original analysis was done. So even the areas that were that lined up, pre-massive inflation dollars that have been significantly amplified. So we are coming forward. We appreciate being on the special meeting agenda as well, because we are coming forward, to some degree also playing from behind, because while some of the supply chain things and pricing and whatnot is stabilized, switching gears, one major item still potentially 20 months out. So, and every day that we lose is just hunting this further and further, and there are some grant deadlines. Obviously, the desire to get this done for the indoor air quality benefit as well. So it's a couple of summers out. So we're trying to get it done. So that's on my end. I don't know if else there's anything that they want to say on the consulting or central office. If not, we open up to questions, and we have everybody here. So.
I see we have Ms. Jacobson also. I am in the unique position of having been involved in this process when I was on the Board of Education. So Mr. Gerber, if you would humor me a little bit, and if the committee would humor me just giving a little bit more context. The school district and the Board of Education pre-COVID wanted to have a better understanding of what the cost would be to bring air conditioning into all of our school buildings. And you were right, Mr. Becker, at that point, cooling was a focus. I think more so, we've learned a lot about just HVAC during the pandemic. As a first step to try to get a better idea of numbers, because prior there was just a calculation of price point by square footage, and that gave us a rough calculation. Mr. Borromito is here, and he can correct me if I'm misspeaking. We went out to bid. We hired a company, DTC, who did a facilities assessment report on all of our schools. And that provided, they were just conceptual designs. So as you said, we knew that there was, a chance for there to be a variation. So that was a starting point. So I do appreciate the work of your committee, and we have definitely learned a lot to think about, and our priorities have always been there to bring the best air quality we can to our school buildings, but I think it was heightened during the pandemic, especially since, we don't have to relive that, but we know. So I appreciate that. If you could just speak to, the Board of Education approved phase 1. It then went to a building committee. So right now you are responsible for running this project, and I thank you all for volunteering for this. The Board of Education, so as building committee, you report to the Board of Selectmen, and the additional funding request has to come before us. The Board of Education did not vote on this additional funding, but did take a sense of the body. I was still on the board at that time, and we did support you moving forward on behalf of our schools. So I just wanted to share that to kind of bring some additional context to how we got to this point. And I think that you covered it. There have been some just variations in even what was presented to the Board of Education in October. Did you find anything new with some of the schools? Like, the numbers just changed slightly, and I don't know if there's anything, if that's just getting better pricing, if there was any new information that you could just potentially share.
Yeah, some of that had to do with the percentages of the work. So I believe we were around, I think we were at, schematic design phase, we went to the BOE, and then soon after we were at 95%, and then we moved to 100. So I think the numbers were roughly 900,000 or so, same as capital planning. So that had to do with the further refinement. So we were still earlier on that end, and that was sort of from a timing perspective, it was important for the Board of Education, and that was helpful. We were trying to do that prior to capital planning. Same as capital planning, we were trying to provide the best information that we had at the time, so that more global perspective, the preparation could get underway. But looking on our end, things can only come together so quickly. We started our work, in spring, almost early summer, and have really, we meet on a schedule that's weekly. Cancel a meeting if there's not anything substantive, but otherwise we're consistently, from the very beginning, we set it that there's an automatic weekly, so that we can be constantly on a check that there's anything that can be done and done. So.
Mr. Gerber, do you have any questions?
Would the chairwoman of the board like to speak at all, or are you okay?
Ms. Jacobson, I will open it up to you if you would like to add anything.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Hello.
Hi, everyone. It's Jen Jacobson, Chair of the Board of Education. Really here to support our staff and our building committee here today. But as Ms. Vitale has already mentioned, the board did review this in October and is aware of these overages and that they were getting better numbers. So yeah, just fully support this moving forward for our 3 buildings of Woods Middle School, North Stratfield, and Osborne Hill at this time. And looking forward to them being able to move forward with this work. But I'm also happy to answer any questions that you might have on our end. And I just want to thank the committee and how hard they're working, and our consultants and everyone that they're working with.
Thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Jacobson? Mr. Gerber?
Yeah, I just want to add that the reason we are having this meeting today is because this item came before us last week, but we weren't really prepared. We didn't know enough about the issues with the process and why it had to be approved and what the deadlines were. So I'm really thankful for Mr. Becker, Mr. Testani, Sal Morabito, Angeles, for coming to the office. And we talked through some of the processes, the timing of the grants. My understanding is some of the issues related to the process being held up because there was some discussion a while back, I think before Mr. Toolin came on board, about why we needed an owner's rep, and that held the process up for a few months. Now I believe that it's understood that we really do need an owner's rep for the whole project. I'd like, Mr. Becker, if you could confirm that we'll be using the owner's rep for all of these projects. And the other thing that I heard from you is that the deadline for the grant, first of all, the grant, you were not 100, from what I heard, that you were not really necessarily expecting to get this grant of $6 million, and which will offset the cost. And when you did get it, that set in motion some deadlines. And the deadline, I think, was 2 years from the date of the grant being accepted. And that means at this point that this work under normal circumstances would have to be completed by the end of 2024. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that put in motion, well, there's a little bit of consternation about whether that's even possible. And that means doing a lot of work very quickly, but the chances are it's not possible because some of the switching equipment or some of the equipment that connects to United Illuminating has a 2-year timeline just to, an order backlog. So I believe our state representatives are our Jen Leeper in particular is in contact with people at the state. And I believe I've heard that this is a common problem and that everyone is having issues with these grants because of that equipment backlog. So, hopefully we will get an extension. Can you correct me on anything that I said that was incorrect?
Yeah, no, there's a few items in there, but generally on the right track with that, and we appreciate the opportunity to sit down, with your administration and work through making sure that you and some of the others, including the time from walking through this. It's a substantial project, and then this is obviously potentially the first of many, and it's only one item of many that the town ultimately has. So making sure that we are diligent in our efforts, be it grants or costs, even when number is obviously very important, and making sure everybody is on the same page for timeline, and making sure that we do all the things to be able to get the grant dollars that we've applied for and been approved for is also important. So from that perspective, so just kind of somewhat, I guess, from the top of the items, the owner's rep, yes, and they're instrumental. They've been involved in all the different aspects that the committee has been charged with, from this project to others, and we'll see it through. The grant, the timeline for the grant, we are working on making sure that we do absolute effort out to meet the timeline. However, we understand that not alone and yes, the switching gear being probably the most substantially, further out item. But that doesn't mean that we can say, okay, well, we're going to sit tight for the next 12 months and then we're going to start. We need to be substantially through the process. We have to really document and show that we're making our best effort before we can then continue to work with the state delegation, who's been very helpful. I believe Representative Leeper has taken kind of running point with it, but obviously the entire delegation works together. And so we're going to continue to be in contact with her on that. And it's possible that we'll have to ask for an extension, but again, we're gonna get as close as we can to that final window and be as substantially completed before we start trying to do that. We can't do that now, and it's entirely possible. You have to play the scenario out that they say go, and you have to do everything you possibly can to get to that point. So.
And when do you expect to go out to bid on this?
January for this.
Okay.
That's part of the reason there was a discussion. Prior administration, we had attempted maybe for a November. It moved to really waiting till everybody else was seated and in that world. And again, that's why I thank you to this board and some of the others if it passes through here to taking this in December. Waiting to January would just be another months. We're really trying to kind of get this through in December, get out in January. The other thing, and I think you guys know and others that you're also playing against the timelines when it comes to the summer windows and being well ahead of that for those variables. So the sooner the better. But yeah, January.
But we are under the impression currently that under these deadlines, there will probably be work being done during the school year, right? So that people should expect You know, sometimes the work will be done at night, and sometimes the children will be going to school, and you know, I assume that, you know, some of the ceilings are going to be open and things like that. Is that correct? Or do we not know yet?
No, I think at this point, it's safe to say. I mean, I know when you could go all the way back to, I think, and I was sitting there, I think primarily trying to come up with every possible way not to do things like that. But the reality is from a timeline perspective, there's some pros and cons with cost. There's also, you know, when you just look at it holistically and getting this done, that timeline way, it's a variable that we're gonna have to do. Obviously it's been done before, and you know, we have Gilbane, who's done many projects, you know, heading that up. One of the things that we have with is for those that are working through that are known commodities in the town, and things like that before. So we feel confident that we'll be able to do it as best as we can.
David, can I just say, like, you're stepping up to do this, and you know, is truly appreciated. This is a lot of work, and thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate the efforts of the committee member and our past committee member as well. So we'll get it done.
All right, thank you.
And part of the reason for this deadline is that the money is tied to ARPA funding, which comes with a strict deadline, that not all of it is funded by town appropriation. And that's why some of these deadlines are not our own. I appreciate your due diligence in trying to move this forward. Mr. Maravita can assess that past building projects have had ceilings that were open, and while we try to do as much work as we possibly can during the summer, sometimes it's just not possible. But when those schools are done and the air quality is better and air conditioned and newly renovated, it definitely is worth it. I want to thank you for your work on this. I want to thank Mr. Lee, who was the chairman prior to being elected to the Board of Education. Mr. Becker, I appreciate you stepping up and leading this committee, Colliers and Gilbane and everybody who has taken the project to this point. Mr. Morbido and Mr. Papa George in your office. This study, Fairfield was very fortunate to be forward thinking because when the round one of the grant funding became available, many districts were really rushing to try to get a plan forward. And being that we had gone and done this facilities condition assessment and had it in hand, we were able to go up there and brought millions of dollars to Fairfield for this project. So I thank the Fairfield Public School staff. Thank the chairwoman of the Board of Education for her advocacy when she was and still is the state liaison, and Representative Lee for her advocacy as well. Look forward for updates. So thank you. Any members of the public would like to give comment on this before taking to the board for a vote?
Different hat. I'm now Sustainable Fairfield, just requesting that when we go forward with this project, not to delay it in any way, but that we consider the full life cycle cost so that the operation of it will usually mean that it'll be less polluting and so forth. And and same with like the roof replacements, we used to be able to solar on them right after we did this. So I'd love to go back and revisit that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Gerber, any last final questions before we take it to a vote?
No, just that I'm glad that the issue of solar, should be considered right off the bat.
And we are looking, the school district is also working with a new program just to monitor our utility usage, and as we purchase and to more energy efficient utilities, hopefully we'll see cost savings in other areas. And I think that as we do these renovations of piecemeal, there's challenges. So again, thank you to the building committee. All right, let's take it to the board for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 2-0. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Ms. Jacobson, for tuning in early.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, David.
Item 11, Town Attorney. Executive session concerning pending claim litigation, PDCA CRO 2220005 and Eiler versus Fairfield Police Department with Town Attorney Philip Pierce, Attorney Ryan McCune, and Police Chief Robert Calamaris. Possible action to approve settlement agreement after executive session. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
I will.
You have to, in the motion.
Do I?
I will
invite
me
and Attorney McCone in the motion.
So pending.
Just when you make the motion to go into executive session, you have to state who you're inviting into the executive session.
Can I have unanimous consent just to modify? Well, this isn't a motion, so just it's really it's not in. And so executive session concerning pending claim litigation, PDCA CRO 2220050 and Eiler versus Police Department with and invite the town attorney Phil Pierce, Attorney Ryan McCune, and Police Chief Howard Palomares into executive session. Possible action to approve settlement agreement after executive session. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Do I just stay on or do I have to call in separately? Or?
No, you could stay on. I'm going to send everybody else except for Attorney Cone to the lobby. And then I'll lock the meeting in and stop the recording.
Okay, I will second that motion to go into executive session. We are in executive session. I thank members of the public for attending.
Thank you.
Okay, they're in and recording again.
Okay, we are out of executive session.
Need to do a motion, a vote to get out of executive session.
Just come out of it.
We, well, I guess,
If you wait, he said just give him a second to make sure he's recording the FairTV guy downstairs. He's gonna let me know. It's sorry. All right, gotcha. He's in.
you can do a motion to come out of exec. I mean, usually that happens in executive session, but.
Can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're out of executive session. Before we adjourn, to anyone who might be listening, I invite you to join us on the Sherman Green at 6 o'clock for the lighting of the town menorah. Anything else for Selectman Gerber?
Just real quickly, I wish I could go. I have COVID, so I can't go to the menorah lighting. Just briefly, I toured the site of the Fairfield University SantaCon party on the beach on Saturday before I tested positive for COVID, and was, really upset about the amount of garbage that was left there on the beach. I think we need to figure out a way to control the level of environmental destruction. A lot of that garbage made its way into the Sound when the tide came up. The cleanup wasn't until the following day. I also felt that the party was so large that there was no way for the police and the first responders to keep control. They had planned for a long time in advance of that party to try to increase their presence, had several strategies, including working with Fairfield U to try to siphon off people from the beach into the Sea Grape. But the students did not go to the Sea Grape. Very few did. They all went to the beach. It was a nice day, and there were thousands of people on the beach, and it was impossible to know whether people were underage or not. And they left a wake of destruction. And there were several young adults who required EMS, emergency medical assistance. It really used all the resources of our EMS services, which leaves holes in the services that could be provided to other parts of the town. I saw one person, one young adult with a head wound that was bleeding. I witnessed a couple of fights. And like I wrote on my Facebook page, most of the young adults were very friendly and talkative, but the party was so large and so out of control that the police really had to concentrate on making sure that there was no harm to any of those young adults, as opposed to, so they switched at a certain point from issuing citations to just making sure there was no physical harm that would come to the young adults there. So we are going to have to figure out a way to ensure this doesn't happen again. I heard a lot of feedback, but I was there myself. I didn't need to hear feedback. I appreciate the feedback, but I didn't need to hear that feedback to know just how important and dire the circumstance is. And I hope I'll have the cooperation of the citizens of Fairfield, the residents of Fairfield, in working together to make sure that this never happens again. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just, if anyone is listening, they're Sunday morning, knee deep, digging out trash from the Sound. And I think that there's going to be just trash showing up. So if anybody, students are in the midst of studying for finals, the appreciation for cleanup throughout the week would be appreciated. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.